Hey guys, it's me, Meteor, and here we are back to another Q&A session. And starting off, we're just going to go right into the questions here. The first question is from Tangerino. What's an underrated piece of Kirby music that you think deserves more attention? Well, let's start off with fans, for example. Well, the one I could think of here that I just recently found out about that I truly love is someone called DeSolo Xantis. He recently made a playlist of all the boss music from, well, the final boss music from Star Allies in like an orchestrated arrangement, and it's beautiful. There's a link up there, wherever YouTube decides to put their card. I have no idea, honestly. If I remember to put it up, hopefully I do. In terms of actual Kirby official music, is there really a true thing as underrated? I mean, I think the Dreamland 3 soundtrack is really good, but a lot of people seem to also agree with that too. Same with Kirby 64. I really think under my control, or under your control, the music that plays before Crowned in the Magular battle, that one's really good. It needs to be remixed. Unfortunately, Hal only ever remixes under or Crowned on a constant basis. So there's that. Rainbow Curse had a good soundtrack. I don't know. I'm not really sure if I really consider any Korean music underrated because there's a fan for almost every music in the franchise. So I don't know. No idea. The next question here is from Alpha Amoeba. Have you ever gotten some shower thought about Kirby lore, about what could happen, be happening, or happened in the canon? In terms of just like, if you're asking me like what I'm thinking, just random thoughts about lore, pretty much all the time. Whenever I make a new Kirby video, and the lore makes a lot of no sense whatsoever, like Star Allies, for example, I was constantly, as I was working, taking a shower, pretty much anything, thinking about, how could I arrange this? This doesn't make sense because of this, so it can't be this, so how could it be that? And I constantly play it until something clicks, like, oh, cool, so I could build off that, and then sometimes I go and build off it and realize it still contradicts because of another fact. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. Probably way more than it should, honestly, for the amount of work I put into it, but still, the thing, it pays off for the most part. And did I say Alpha Me? Did I say your name? I think I have. The next question comes from the One True Boxman. How would you design a 3D Kirby game? Would you use an engine along the lines of Battle Royale or Blowout Blast? Well, considering those games are both tests, considering they seem to me more to be alpha builds or tests of what they could do in 3D. I mean, Blowout Blast was nice, but the whole grid system could use a lot of work, and the camera system or anything else, no way to adjust cameras or anything. Battle Royale, good for abilities in 3D playing, but there wasn't really much platforming going on, except for maybe 3 or 4 challenges in the single player, maybe at best. So I would say if I was to design a 3D Kirby game, I don't know, take those ideas and build off of it. I mean, obviously I'm not Hal, so I can't decide what to make or how to make games. But if you're gonna make something like, say, Void Termina's battle, great system, but kind of zoom it out a bit so I can see what's gonna happen more than like 5 feet away from me. So I'm not just running into a laser and realize, oh, there's an edge here. Crap, and I get hit. So there's that. I mean, I'm not a game developer, so I couldn't honestly say. Just give me more control over the camera. I like the system of Battle Royale and Blowout Blast, where you could float for a finite amount of time, therefore making platforming a bit more, well, platforming, so just being able to float over everything. Also have a limited amount of height you could fly up to as well, and maybe find upgrades later that could allow you to fly to higher distances, like a 3D Metroidvania. That'll never happen, but that'd be cool. I love Metroid games. Anyway, going on to the next question, Fearless Fab. Perhaps you can do a really long 45-minute video summing up all major points, mainly those surrounding Kirby himself and also a fair bit on King Dedede, Meta Knight, and others. Also characters like the artist, the Squeaks get mentioned but wouldn't need a segment to themselves. So, a video summing up all of Kirby lore. I feel like someone's already did that before. Yeah, obviously I'm not going to try doing anything like that because someone's already done it. RPG Monger, specifically. In fact, I think I might have already put up a card. Who knows? But if I was to do... It does give me an idea, though, for something I could do at a later date where maybe... And I'll get into details about that later. But it does give me an idea for a future video. Bryce Jensen says, can you attempt to make a Kirby lore timeline or something like that? I've constantly contemplated the idea in a constant amount of times. I keep on thinking about it, But then I keep on wondering whether to make it like a Kirby video, a Kirby canon, or if I should make it a Meteor Storms. Because when you come right down to it, the timeline has plenty of evidence proving the games take place one after another in the time of they were released, except for exceptions were released at the same time, like Squeak Squad and Return of Dreamland. But really, there's no evidence at all to say that for 100% certainty, that one game takes place before another. Some people could give me some ideas like, oh, well, Squeak's got to be the first game of the Kirby series because he didn't trust King Dedede. That can't be true because the Halberd crashed in the Secret Sea, which is after Superstar, after he met Meta Knight. So obviously it's after that. There's plenty of evidence to prove games taking after something, but never any evidence of one taking place before another. So pretty much the timeline would just be release date of the games. I would go into a full video explaining that, and I was planning on doing that, but like I said, I'm not sure if I would consider that a Kirby canon video or just a Meteor Storms, because there's really no revelation there or anything real tricky, but you get the point. Nate Robbins asks, since Star Allies was kinda a celebration of Kirby's history, with all the returning main characters and villains as playable, where do you think the franchise is going next? Anyone's guess, really. Maybe they'll make another spin-off game like Rainbow Curse. Maybe they'll make another 2D platformer for like the 5th time in the same engine. Maybe they'll do something completely different. I'm hoping it's the latter, but I honestly don't even know how anymore. They do really whatever they want. So, who knows? Hugo writes, have I tried speedrunning any Kirby game? No, simply because that's way too stressful and I don't have enough time. Being married, having a full-time job, and life's responsibilities in general, I barely have enough time to upload YouTube videos, let alone trying to constantly play the same game over and over and over for a better time. Maybe in my early days when I used to play Pokemon and put max out the clock in the Pokemon games like Pearl and Platinum, that was great when I had all the time in the world and no job or anything else. But yeah, not my thing. I don't have the time for that. And even if I did, I just find speedrunning a bit too stressful because you're like, oh no, I might mess up, and you keep on trying to do it. No thanks. Lennox writes, do you think we'll see Ripple Star and the Fairy Queen again? I hope so, but I doubt it. Kawaii, I think Kawaii? I forget how you say that word. Mayday writes, on your opinion, what's the least and most cringeworthy video you've ever made? Least cringeworthy? I mean, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I don't think too many of my videos are cringeworthy, so I guess there's multiple that I think are the least cringeworthy. I don't know. Most cringeworthy. Oh, I have plenty of those. Like, there's this one video overview I did of a really old Neopets game for the Dig system. Looking back, it looks like a horribly. It was before I knew how to edit video properly based on talking and putting footage on top of it, kind of thing. I did it, handled it properly, or I handled it improperly, should I say. The whole product just seemed very forced, and it seemed like a wannabe Ashens video. That wasn't great. A lot of my really old videos were Pokemon battles, and some of those narrations were so bad. Like, think I was literally sick on some of them, and recording and talking like this the whole time in the video, and it's so exciting to hear. It's just, I look back at them, just ugh. Look, Meta Knights, what is Kirby Cannon Meta Knight video. I still look at that. Someone pointed out I said actually 26 times in that video. That's more than even I thought. And yeah, I'll be replacing that video soon enough. Soon enough could be by the end of this year or something. Whenever I think it has the least priority of all my videos to plan to update because there's not really much any new information. But I still really hate that video, so who knows? Toxic P. Do you think Morphinite will play a major role in next Kirby game, or do you think he'll be a secret boss instead, following the trend Galactonite made? Also, what is the likelihood that we get Bandana D in Smash? In terms of Morphinite, I never think any of the secret bosses will ever have a role in the main games. Ever. So I think Morphinite, if anything, will play a role in the extra universe. Maybe. That's a bit of a stretch. But I don't think it'll be the main role. Same with Galactonite or any of those extra bosses. in terms of Bandana getting into Smash, well, the way I see it is, if Bandana is added to Smash, it'll be before he was given a spear, because that was because when Bandana was made originally from Sakurai, he was Megaton Punch. So they'll probably give him a fighting ability moveset instead of the spear, because he can't acknowledge anything past his prime. Uh, anyway, that's a whole nother rant I could go into. I don't know how to pronounce this. Sax Clan, SAFX Con. Uh, how do you think this Kirby Star Allies Q&A is going to work because Miiverse is gone? Well, I never. Is there a Kirby Star Allies Q&A coming up? I never heard anything about this. But even if there was, sure, Miiverse is gone, but now we got the Star Allies channel, or the Switch channel, which gives you news at your fingertips to switch through, and you have about 5 days to read before it's removed. So worse. Overall, far worse. Or they could do even one better and put lore in a Nintendo Dream magazine, which they did for Team Kirby Clash Deluxe. Which is also why you haven't seen an updated video of Taranza yet. So, still working on that. I do have the magazine, though, from that it was translated in. The fact I had to go about doing that in the first place is really stupid. Anyway, let's see, where was I? What is the best... So many... Oakefear? Oakfear? What is the best Kirby spin-off in your opinion? Mass Attack, in my personal opinion, is my favorite spin-off Kirby game. That could just be nostalgia talking. Could you consider that nostalgia? I guess maybe a lot of you, that could be one of your first Kirby games you've played, because I think that game came out a long time ago now at this point. And to me, when I think of any game made past the N64, is modern. Whereas some people, their first game was Kirby's Epic Yarn. I'm just like, well, I feel really old. Anyway, but yeah, I really like Mass Attack. I like the fact it was a whole 2D Pikmin. It had a lot of faults, don't get me wrong, like at your Kirby's getting stuck at a certain point, clipping onto the stage if you can't get your Kirby's there in time. It's like, you try to select them all, you select like all but one, and one ends up getting crushed, which makes goals like the Gold Star ranking achievements absolutely terrible, and which I would ever refuse to do. If I ever did a Let's Play of Mass Attack, I guarantee I will not be getting 100% in that game ever. I did like Rainbow Curse a lot too. I think it's a very underrated Kirby game. I loved Rainbow Curse. The only real fault I had was, of course, it was the first HD Kirby game that I couldn't play in HD because the Wii U gamepad was only 480p. And it's not like it was even pixel to pixel 480p either. It was literally taking a 720p image and squishing it down to 480p, so you see like a lot of compressioning kind of thing. It's kind of like if you took a 1080p image on your computer, went to Microsoft Paint, resized it to 720p, and that's how it would look like on that. But yeah, those are probably two of my favorite spin-off games. Air Ride, I've talked about that before. I'm not going to get into that. I think it's a game that had a lot of potential that just fell flat on many, many levels. I really do want to see an Air Ride sequel, mind you, with online and not on rails and more buttons. Quite a lot to ask for, but we'll see. I think asking for an online game from HAL in general is probably a lot to ask for at this point. Once again, another rant for another day. I may have actually already ranted about that before. In fact, I did! I already ranted about that. Anyway, Ido Zamiri says, would you like to collaborate with MatPat for a video? I think it's quite clear that me and him see differently on certain things, and he pretty much passed down the Kirby lore itself specifically to me. If anything, I would like to do a collab with Ant Dude, but it's more of not an idea of if I want to collab with him, it's pretty much if he wants to collab with me. And considering our differences in the subscriber count, I'm pretty sure the answer is no. Prove me wrong! I really hope so. Davey says, will Kirby Canon still continue for future Kirby games? Why wouldn't it? I mean, That would be channel suicide. Yeah, I like Kirby Cannon where it is. I'm just gonna leave the playlist right there. Never mind any Kirby games. I'm sure it'll get a point in the future where I might not have the time to really upload anymore. That's not in the foreseeable future, but I'm sure it'll be a time where that happens, where I won't be uploading videos anymore. But I'll still, if anything, try to. Let's just say yes. I plan to upload. I plan to upload for future Kirby games, Kirby Canon episodes. Did I say that right? Probably not. Let's gonna move on to the next one. Blue Kirby 64. Who do you trust more between Marks and Dark Mennonite after they teamed up with Kirby and Star Allies? Probably Marks, if anything, because you could see Marks legitimately trying to compress his anger sometimes in his idle animations, and Dark Mennonite has shown no sign of compassion whatsoever, period. He pretty much came. He pretty much led to Darkmind being raised up, came back. I know, well, canon, is it canon, whatever, who cares? Dark Mennonite came back after being stuck in eons, still completely angry and far more powerful than ever before, and now he's just like, yeah, I'm back, I'm a dream friend now. I mean, it's funny, on the Star Allies channel, on the Star Allies official website, they go over all the dream friends and they give them all the reason for why they're here. Dark Mennonite just has a dot dot dot. So, I'm pretty sure they were just using Dark Mennonite since that's the only rep they could think of for Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, because Shadow Kirby would just be like another Kirby recolor, and people would prefer probably Dark Mennonite. But Dark Mennonite still doesn't make sense as a dream friend. I'm pretty sure he has no good compassion in his body still there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the next game we'll find out that Dark Mennonite is actually friendly and is like giving out lollipops to people or something. Who knows? Oh, let's see here. Joe Does Stuff says, do you think Kirby wears red shoes or does he have naturally red feet? Oh, that's interesting. I've seen interesting photos of him without his shoes. I personally think if Kirby is wearing shoes, that his feet look similar to his, just pink, but maybe like a line down the front of the middle, kind of like separating, kind of like you see the moles in Squeak Squad, or I'm pretty sure if I'm thinking of it, or kind of like the Roach's feet, for example, where it's kind of like round and maybe like a line down the middle, maybe like nails or something. I think that's how Kirby's feet would look like if he did have, if those weren't his actual feet. I don't think they look like a human foot like some people point out. So that's just how I personally imagine it in my head canon. Yeah. DXUS100 says, what's up with the XX Meteorz XX username on Twitter/Facebook? That was long before my channel's name was XX Meteor XX, because during that time when I made my YouTube channel, you couldn't make your channel based on whatever name you wanted and use like a kind of username underneath that. You pretty much had to use a username that was not taken already. So Meteorz was taken, XX Meteor was not. XX Meteor XX was not taken. So I went with that. It wasn't until recently, well, I don't know how recently it is, maybe 4 years now. How long has it been since I've been able to do that, to change names? All I know is that when you're able to change names, I changed it to Meteorz, so my username is still XX Meteor XX. When it comes to Facebook and Twitter, well, like that's still using that same thing in mind, but Meteorz was also taken on both Facebook and Twitter. If I could redo it and if I started my channel later and I was able to use the Meteorz moniker from the beginning, I probably would have been like Meteorz YT for Meteorz YouTube on Twitter and Facebook. But I can't really change that now. I haven't really updated my Facebook page in like 4 or 5 years. It's been a long time. I pretty much just use it just to communicate with people if they ask me a question on messaging or something. I do all my real updated on Twitter. So if you want to follow me for updates and stuff on my channel, I'd recommend following me on Twitter. And that's a shameless plug, but whatever. Adita Witterama says, what's the reason you know ability every boss encounter in every Kirby game? Because I can? I don't know. When I was doing my Let's Play of the extra mode in Return of Dreamland, at that point I've never did a arena outside or did a boss endurance outside of the original arena. and I was trying to think of how to do it. I know people already did no healing runs and no ability runs of that, but I was trying to think of what ability I could use. Eventually, I'm just like, yeah, let me just try it with no abilities, whatever. And I don't know, it just kind of caught on. I like challenging myself. I like not being able to take down a boss in 5 seconds with an overpowered ability or helpers or something. I like being able to see the full movesets of the characters. Now, granted, some abilities are harder to use than no abilities. I will never deny that. However, I just like the idea of normal Kirby Dream Land style fighting the bosses. I don't remember quite how it originated or why it originated. I just like doing it. And a follow-up question to that someone asks, or maybe not a follow-up question. Let's see if I can find this down here. Justin writes, "How do you feel about your earlier True Arena runs, like Return to Dreamland?" Looking back at my Return to Dreamland run, I was not happy with that turned out. That was, like I said, that was the first true arena, or any arena I've done outside of the original arena from Superstar, that I've successfully done. It wasn't until much later where I started doing everything else. And looking back at it now, Return to Dreamland was extremely easy. Being able to have the super inhale for an infinite amount of time, which could inhale multiple projectiles, pretty much every boss attacked in the center, like away from the corner. You could hide in the corner for maybe, I don't know, sometimes around a whole minute before anything literally touches you. And I probably could have handled that a lot better looking back. That was the first video of mine that ever got true traction. It's still my most viewed video of all time. It's also the arena slash boss endurance run I'm the least proud of. Yet, I really don't want to redo it either. So, whatever. Can't really go from there. I'm going to go back up here. Let me scroll up here. Nintendroid618 says, "What is my least favorite Kirby game and why?" Easily, without a doubt, Team Kirby Clash Deluxe. It was literally just a whole line of bosses we've already fought before, with the exception of like 3 mini bosses, which didn't really do much themselves either, and a final boss. And, well, there's like a fake final boss too, but still, outside of that, it's like, okay, it's 3 bosses, or two real bosses and 3 mini bosses, and added up with all the other for like 1% of the game. The entire rest of the game is just bosses we've already fought before with an RPG stamina and microtransactions, which just put the nail in the coffin for me. Just if someone calculated it out, if you wanted 100% that game without paying a dime, in order to unlock everything, it would be somewhere around 2 years, I think it was. If you just wanted to beat the main game by itself, I think it's somewhere on the lines of like 2 or 3 months. So if I'm going to stream a video game, obviously I'm not going to be streaming the same game for 3 months. I mean, that's really just mine. Obviously, in order to show you guys what I had to do, I had to play it there. But even without the microtransaction system, it still was just a very rushed, boring game. And that goes into a whole nother thing. I'll answer that question later. But that's why. Marx writes, "What is your favorite boss fight in Kirby and favorite boss fight in video games in general?" For Kirby, Stardream, hands down, is handled the best. Void Termina could have been great. I mean, when it comes to Void Termina, I liked when it came to the Titan phase, where you're into Star Sparkler or whatever. I thought the Soul version was the best. The Void Soul version was the best there. It had the most unique attacks and moves, and I don't know. I just really enjoyed the way in Flash it looked, and putting each move set on its own segment of health. It worked out really well. But I also like the 2D phase from Void a lot better. So if they would have had, if they would have swapped the Void Termina phases of Void and Void Soul, the Titan version, if they swapped those and pretty much if they had the Titan phase of Void Soul and the 2D phase of Void, I think it probably would have been my favorite final boss fight of all time. But they didn't. Also, like I said, the screen is way too zoomed in on you. So, for example, in Void Souls, in the Titan phase, you had to move all the way to the right or all the way to the left when he does his laser with the Master Crown. But because you're so close, zoomed in on the Star Sparkler, you can't tell if you're close to the edge or not. So if you go one direction, realize you're not, you're kind of forced to jump, and by then it's already too late. It's just there were so many technical issues I had with Void Tournament as well that I just liked Star Dream a lot better. In terms of favorite final boss of all time, if we're not including Kirby, actually probably even including Kirby, uh, surprisingly, I'd say Lego City Undercover. That game proved to me that even if you can't die in a video game final boss fight, like you literally can't die, if you implement it right, with the right type of scenery, the right type of, what's the word? The right type of music, the right type of setting. If you do everything perfectly, you could have an amazing final boss fight. And the whole final boss fight and ending of Lego City Undercover had to be one of the most memorable, most awesome moments of gaming I think I've ever seen. In fact, I've wanted to do a Let's Play of that game because of the final boss alone. That's just my opinion. Maybe it's an odd opinion. I don't know. But I just think it really caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting a game that simple to end that way. It just really, I don't know. It's a different thing there. So yeah, if only, Yin Yarn had that same type of knowledge of how to make a easy, but that another rant. How much time am I at so far? Let's see here. 26 minutes. I had no idea. I'm just going to cut it off there, and I'll answer all the rest of the questions next time. So, with that, like I said, see you guys next time.